Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to The Walk. Today is Sunday, September 10th, and we have finished our study of the number 40. We are going to reflect back on that in a couple of days, but one of the things that I was really led to talk about is the significance of Mount Horeb in the Bible. And this shows up in several places within the Bible. Two of the major places where it shows up is in 1 Kings 19. And after Elijah was given that food by the angel of the Lord, he was sent through the desert for 40 days, and he ended up at Mount Horeb. Well, there's several other places where it also shows up. And I'm getting this information from gotquestions.org. And the question was, what is the significance of Mount Horeb in the Bible? So another name for Mount Horeb is Mount Sinai. So anytime you see the word, see Mount Sinai, it's also talking about Mount Horeb. Mount Horeb is also called Mount Sinai. It's like the two of them are synonyms. They're exactly the same thing. It's a mountain where the Hebrew people entered into a covenant with God after escaping Egypt. So that's a place where covenants happened. It was a very holy place. It's also the place where Moses got the 10 Commandments, the laws, the rules, and the instructions for the people before continuing their journey through the desert toward the promised land. Another name for it is Mountain of God. Horeb comes from a Hebrew term meaning desert. Most of the events in the book of Exodus described as happening at Mount Sinai are located at Mount Horeb. Before the Exodus, while Moses was tending the flocks of his father-in-law Jethro, he came to the slopes of Mount Horeb, and there he saw the burning bush. So that initial calling that Moses had to go and to ask for Pharaoh to let the people go came at Mount Horeb. It's also where he got the Torah. It's where he got the law. It's where he got the 10 Commandments. It's where he got all of that. And Exodus 19:20, the Israelites camped at the base of Mount Horeb while Moses went up to receive the instructions from God. They were told that they would receive commandments from God and even hear the Lord's voice. After 3 days of preparation, God would come down in the sight of the people, and I'm quoting this from Got Questions. Moses set boundaries on where they could go, and under penalty of death, they were prohibited from even touching the mountain. On the third day, amid thunder, lightning, and trumpet blasts, a thick cloud of smoke engulfed the mountain as God descended on it. Then Moses brought down the 10 Commandments and the instructions of the law. Now, as I think this through, I'm thinking of the enormous parallels that are happening here and what we are told will happen when Christ returns. That's going to be amidst trumpet calls. There is going to be natural disasters that are happening during that tribulation. There's a lot of parallels that happen here. In addition to that, when Christ died on the cross, which was the beginning of the 30 days in which Christ was dead before the resurrection, there was thunder, there was lightning, there was an earthquake, and that's when that whole curtain that divided the Holy of Holies in the synagogue tore. So it's interesting that the law was given at Mount Horeb in those 3 days on that mountain. And that's where they were told how to set up the tabernacle, how to set up all of those things. And it was at the beginning of the 3 days that Christ was in the tomb that the earthquake happened, and that curtain, that separation between the Holy of Holies that was originally commanded to have on Mount Horeb, it tore open, making us have the ability to be in God's presence. From Mount Horeb, the Israelites set out on an 11-day journey, and much later, the prophet Elijah fled to Mount Horeb because of Jezebel's wrath. So we've got to be aware that Mount Horeb is an essential part of the Bible. Here's the interesting thing. There's some speculation about exactly where this mountain is. And no one's really certain exactly where it is. Some people may say that they're certain, but when you really dig in and you really research, there's a lot of speculation there. But the bottom line is that God wanted to relate with us. That is why these events happened on Mount Horeb. That is why these events happened with Moses and Elijah, so that God could let us know who he is and how to best live our lives to glorify him. He's done so much so that it's not veiled in mystery and it's clearly there. That's why we have God's word and we need to cherish it. Have a wonderful day. God bless and keep walking the walk.